Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Today, we are talking about how a one-party state can actually be a good thing. Now, we have some good examples, like the early 19th century USA. So you had the falling away of the Federalists, and you had the dominance of the Democrats. Also today, you have Japan, which has a really one party system. There are other parties, but the same party keeps getting the majority, and they rule through a coalition. Okay, so maybe they don't always get the majority, but they get the largest proportion, and they're able to convince another party to join them in a coalition. And then, of course, Venice. Venice had no parties. Yeah, I don't even know why I put it up there, but yeah, always got to make a Venetian reference, don't I? Bad examples. So you have the Soviet Union, and they didn't have any other parties. They had the only the one party. Nazi Germany. For well, as time went on, the Nazis began to dominate more and more, even though they started out as a minority. Now, I didn't put China up there. China's kind of has some funny caveats. They have one party that dominates, but they actually have other parties, and they're brought together in a government organ that is there to kind of just offer suggestions on how they can do things better. So it's I mean, it's de facto one party state, but they by law de jure they have other parties. Now, let's go on to my metric. So I'm just looking at the states in the United States. I did a matrix of all the states, and I rated them. But I'm only going to share with you the top tier, which is they got 7 total points. Now, you got a point if your governor is a member of that party. 1 point. Now I could have now there's a lot of things I could have done. I could have added to make this better, but I think these that I have are enough. And I'll show you that it also shows you the purple states. So we'll go into that after this slide. Then we have yeah, so what I could have done better for executive control is talked about all the constitutional officers, all the statewide the state officers. I could have even talked about at the federal level of Senate and congressmen, but I decided that would be too much. Legislative control, you get 1 point for a simple majority in both. You got to have both chambers of the legislature. And of course, I rated Nebraska poorly because they only have one chamber. Horrible unicameral Nebraska. Go watch my video on the unicameralism of Nebraska, and you'll see why they are so horrible. 2 points for a supermajority in one chamber, but still have a majority in the simple majority in the other chamber. And then 3 points for supermajority in both chambers. Yeah, so there were some states where you could have a supermajority in both chambers, and then not have executive control, and not even have all the voters, a majority of the voters, be a part of your party. And I think that shows a lot of gerrymandering. Then you have voter affiliation. So voter affiliation, at 1 point for being the largest party, 2 points for being larger than the independents. And I noticed after I got into this that probably that was kind of a tricky metric. That could mean a number of different things. Then 3 points for being the majority of voters. And I think that was, that's a pretty good standard right there. But, oh, and then there were like 8 well, I think 18 states where they don't require you to be a member of a party. They don't require you to register. So I got all this information from Independent Voter Project .org. You can go ahead and search that. It's a pretty good, they had pretty good numbers on there, verifiable. So I didn't have to go around to every single Secretary of State and see what was going on there. But for the ones who don't require you to register, I went to Pew Research, and they had some good numbers. Of course, they're only they're polling just several hundred voters in that state, and they're trying to get a good a good mix of what the majority is. So while their numbers are not 100% accurate, I do think that they are pretty good because they want to be able to get an idea of what everybody in that state thinks. So yeah, but yeah, only one of those made it into the top tier. That was North Dakota. We'll talk about that later. All right. So purple states. And I think I'm putting this out there as my prediction for 2022, 2024 elections. This might have something, this might make an impact in what we see in the House, possibly the Senate, and maybe in 2024, the presidential election for the United States of America. Now, you have Florida. I think everybody knows that. Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those are all, and of course, North Carolina, Wisconsin. I think everybody realizes those are pretty good purple states. Texas is becoming purple. Now, Texas, they only have a simple majority. They have more Democrats than Republican voters. Yeah, so they only got 2 votes or 2 points on my metric. So then I'm calling them purple. Yeah. So the only reason they're not more Democratic is because all the Democrats live in a couple cities. They're all clustered together. So then we go on to West Virginia. West Virginia is kind of funny. West Virginia has a governor who's a Republican, and then they have the legislature actually has super majorities in both chambers, but they have more Democrats than Republicans. So that's kind of weird. But then you have Joe Manchin, who is a Democrat and has thought about becoming a Republican. I think that's one of those states where you have a state party that kind of just has you have state parties that just kind of have their own flavor. They're not very well associated with the national party, and so they're not going to elect. They won't necessarily elect people from that party. I know that sounds kind of weird. You have that in other states too. Yeah, so they're purple. Vermont is, yeah, so they have a Democratic governor. They have a majority of both chambers, and one of them has a supermajority, a Republican, but they have more Democrats than Republicans. So that's Vermont. And then, yeah, so I think that expresses it fairly clearly. Those are the purple states. There might be others. We'll see how, if this proves to hold up in the next national election. Now, top tier, one party states. So New York and Idaho, I was able to get their information. It's pretty clear. It's cut and dry. you know, everyone's a Republican or Democrat, you know, New York Democrat, Idaho Republican. If you want to be in, you know, active politically in those states, you have to be a member of that party. Yeah. So then we have Hawaii, and they have a super, I mean, super majorities in both chambers. And a few years ago, Hawaii actually had 100% Democratic legislatures. There weren't any Republicans. So Hawaii, you know, the Republicans have made a little bit of inroads there, but they are, you know, just very small. And then we have North Dakota, and North Dakota is kind of was kind of an issue for me because we have oh, that did not have, well, so yeah, so they I didn't have the voter affiliation. um while the Republican Party there is very large, I wasn't 100% on their numbers. So, but yeah, they are a party, one party state. So there you have it for the top tier. I'm going to keep this metric and probably look at it over the coming years and see. But if you have any objections, any states that you feel should have been included, I mean, California would, you know, a lot of people think, oh, that's a one-party state, but they actually have a lot of Republicans there, a lot of registered Republicans. So that's um, yeah. So they were only they only got 6 points out of the 7. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear if you think that this is good, if you think that this is, um, you know, a good thing to have. Let me go into a little bit of the explanation on why this can be a good thing. So there's nothing really bad about a one-party state as long as the majority of the people chose it, unless it is captured by an extreme minority, you know, as they do take over, and then you know, extreme minority takes over the party, which is possible, and then they promote their extreme agenda. But you know, that's really an extreme case, and most of the time that one party got there by earning it, and they will promote a moderate policy. They won't allow the extreme elements of their party to take control, hopefully. And so when there ceases to be competitive elections, the main political party ceases to be a political party and becomes an institution equivalent to another form, another government body. Okay, similar to like a grand council, maybe a legislature, you know, maybe like a tricameral legislature. You know, that those things do exist, and so, you know, when states do this, they become like a tricameral state, because you have this. While you do need the legislative branch who approve the laws and to make the laws, you do have a lot of policy being pushed from the party, and the party is representing most of the people. So it kind of represents um, the democratic element of a republic. So it is possible to see more moderation in these parties because they must represent most of the people. I am not, but I am not promoting a one-party system, but rather a no-party system. Within a system that has a grand council or some sort of tri-cameral legislature capable of approving law electing officials, and deciding appeals. Now, this is what Gianotti proposed, and you can hear more about Gianotti and his theory from my video on the Machiavellian moment. But a true democratic element in a true mixed regime is what I am trying to promote here. All right, so until next time, remember, leave me a comment, please subscribe, and long live the Republic.